What's up, everyone? It's Dominic here for Obligatory, bringing you an overview of the new releases for the week ending in August 4th. Starting things off, we have Current Joys, a real name Nick Radigan, who is also known for being the drummer and singer in the band Surf Curse, just released his new album Love Plus Pop, which is out now via Secretly Canadian. Radigan took a much more DIY and homemade approach to this record, and it is more within the frame of indie pop than the distinctive indie rock sound that usually accompanies a Current Joys release. There's a lot going on this record, with influences from hyperpop and cloud rap even popping up, as well as a Lil Peep cover and a feature from Lil Yachty, of all people. Memphis rapper Yo Gotti teams up with DJ Drama for the Gangsta Grill's mixtape I Showed You So, a follow-up to their 2006 collab I Told You So. This 10-track project keeps it mostly between the two, but there are 2 guest appearances with features from Moneybagg Yo and Rich Homie Quan. I Showed You So is out now via Inevitable Productions and Interscope Records. Florida's BLP Kosher caught my attention sort of right at the tail end of last year, or maybe the beginning of this year, with his mixtape BLP Kosher and the Magic Dreidel. Since then, BLP Kosher has had a hell of a year with features in Complex, Rolling Stone, and more, a song with Babytron to pair with a Cole Bennett-directed music video, and most recently, a hilarious and extremely entertaining interview with the legendary Nardwuar. This week, BLP Kosher is following up his last mixtape and the aforementioned influx of hype with new album Bars Mitzvah out through BLP's own Dreidel Gang, as well as encore recordings. My expectations aren't necessarily through the roof for this one, but BLP Kosher has a ton of potential and is super fun to listen to, and I'm expecting some really solid beats with Ronnie J, Big Head, and the DJ Premier as just a few of the producers featured on Bars Mitzvah. Electropop artist and subscriber to The Garden's Vada Vada boundaryless approach to making music, Cowgirl Clue, just put out her sophomore record with the release of Rodeo Star. Rodeo Star is definitely an evolution of the sound she displayed on her 2019 debut Icebreaker, but this one feels significantly more expansive and incredibly harder to categorize. On the surface, house, hyperpop, and alt-country don't really sound like 3 styles that can or even should be mixing, but here we are. It's quirky, it's heartfelt, and certainly one of the most ambitious records to come out this year, and Rodeo Star is out now via the Vada Vada label. In the midst of what seems to be an alt-country boom, Philadelphia's Florry are a must-listen. Florry originally started as an outlet for songwriter and band leader Francie Madash before evolving into the ragtag group that we hear on the 3rd Florry album, The Holy Bible. Over the years, Madash and company have built upon the DIY indie rock foundations of her early work and thrown in some pedal steel, fiddle, and more to create some really exciting, rambunctious, and heartfelt country rock. The Holy Bible is where Florry seem to have really hit a stride, balancing intimacy and careful songwriting with a real joyous and almost party-like atmosphere to their sound. The Holy Bible is out now via Dear Life Records. Taking it from Philly to the other side of the state, we have Pittsburgh indie rockers Gaadge with their 3rd album, Somewhere Down Below. They have already shown a knack for merging these super addictive riffs with really catchy hooks, something that stays true on this record, but there is a new emphasis on a crisper sound with this one. There's still enough fuzz hanging around to call it shoegaze adjacent, but Somewhere Down Below is mainly a sleek and punchy indie rock record that hopefully draws more eyes to a band well deserving of more shine. Gaadge's Somewhere Down Below is out now through the independent and Pittsburgh-based label Crafted Sounds. Los Angeles-based rapper Sideshow teams up with producer Alexander Spit for the 7-track EP Jam. Alexander Spit has produced for the likes of Mac Miller, Navy Blue, and Earl Sweatshirt, while Sideshow's already made tracks with Mike, Mavi, and The Alchemist, so both of these artists have just about every cosign in the world of abstract hip-hop that you could imagine. The two's pairing feels incredibly natural and should be on the radar for anyone looking to stay on top of underground hip-hop releases, especially with such a short runtime at just 13 minutes. We obviously did not get to cover every project that dropped this week, so if you want to see the full list of albums we put together, you can check that out on your screen or head over to our socials to see more. Otherwise, we are moving on to the singles portion of the video to see what singles dropped this week. Denzel Curry has fired in back-to-back weeks, as this week's Ice Cold Zell freestyle is an immediate follow-up to last week's Blood on My Nikes that featured Juicy J. Here, Ice Cold refers to South Central LA's Ice Cold Bishop. Boldy James and Alchemist fans will remember his show-stopping verse on the track Hot Water Tank off of the Super Tecmo Bow album. And although this track only clocks in at 99 seconds, the Ice Cold Zell freestyle is full of blistering energy and fireworks from both parties. In just a tad bit over a year since releasing their last record, Wilco are already set to drop another. The lead single, Evicted, is out now, and they've shared some details about the new album titled Cousin, most notably that it was produced by Kate LeBon, marking the first time Wilco have used an outside producer since 2007's Sky Blue Sky. Cousin will mark the Chicago band's 12th album in their near 30-year career, and it'll be out September 29th through Wilco's own DBPM label. 20 years after it was shelved, we are finally getting the release of the second collaborative effort between Danger Mouse and Gemini the Gifted One. The duo released an underground gem in 2003 with Ghetto Pop Life, marking the first time that producer Brian Burton released a full-length project under the name Danger Mouse, and the only album that Gemini has released. The title of this new album is Born Again, and it is reportedly more introspective than the braggadocious Ghetto Pop Life, and we get our first glimpse of it with lead single Brooklyn Basquiat. This track oozes mid-2000s charm with a super fun flute melody and an interpolation of Biggie's Hypnotize. Born Again will be out just a few weeks from now on August 25th through Lex Records. About a month ago, the remaining two members of the Arizona trio Injury Reserve announced their intentions to retire the name and continue making music as a duo under the name By Storm. If you're not familiar with Injury Reserve, they are quite easily one of the most prominent names in experimental hip-hop of the past decade. In 2020, Stepa J. Groggs, one of the group's two vocalists, tragically passed away, and Injury Reserve released their final album By the Time I Get to Phoenix the following year. Reconvening as a duo, Richie with a T and Parker Corey have brought us their first offering as By Storm this week with the new song and video Double Trio. This track sees the two continuing to push the boundaries of hip-hop and build upon the abstract sounds that Injury Reserve often toyed with. The legacy of Groggs and Injury Reserve will certainly live on through By Storm, and I'm so glad that these two have continued to make music, and am super excited for whatever they may have planned. The shoegaze/dream pop trio Candy Claws are releasing a 10th anniversary reissue of their final album, 2013's Series and Calypso in the Deep Time. This anniversary edition of the record features a brand new song from the band that is available to stream now titled Distortion Spear, the first piece of new music from Candy Claws since the album was originally released. It is unclear if the band has plans to regroup, as two of the three bandmates, Ryan and Karen Hover, have kept busy making music as part of Sound of Series, or if this is just a one-off to accompany the reissue. Armand Hammer have officially announced a new album on the way with the release of new single Trauma Mike, which features Pink Sifu. The duo of Elucid and Billy Woods teased and more or less announced this album a few weeks back after some mysterious postcards, flyers, and phone numbers started popping up that gave away details of the album. But with the release of this single, we have a more official and widely publicized announcement that their new album, We Buy Diabetic Test Strips, is out September 29th through Fat Possum Records. It's got some super exciting features on it, with Pink Sifu obviously making an appearance on the lead single, as well as features from Jungle Pussy, Soul Glow's Jordan Pierce, More Mother, and more, plus some production from JPEG Mafia, LP, Kenny Segal, Black Noise, and more. Shoegaze as a genre has had a pretty big resurgence in the past several years, which might make it the perfect time for one of the genre's pioneers to make a return 3 decades after their last release. The Boston band Drop 19s have announced a new record titled Hard Light with the release of lead single Scapa Flow. In an interview with Stereogum, songwriter and vocalist Greg Ackle said that Hard Light is, quote, the proverbial follow-up to Delaware being the band's first of only 2 records, and that, quote, it's different than Delaware, but it's every bit the ride that Delaware was. Hard Light will be available November 3rd via Wharf Cat Records. You can also catch them on a short tour this October where the band will be playing 6 shows featuring support from Greg Mendez, Horsejumper of Love, and Winter. New Jersey's Teenage Halloween have announced their second album titled Till You Return and just shared the first 2 tracks from it with Supertrans and Takeaway. With power pop punk bursts of energy, it is a strong 1-2 punch that kicks off the band's sophomore album. Lead singer and guitarist Luke Hendricks adds to the urgency as they provide vocals and lyrics that are truly some of the most earnest I've heard all year. Supertrans focuses on gender identity and self-perception, while Takeaway is a bit more broad in discussing anxiety and trauma, but it is no less personal and vulnerable. Teenage Halloween's Till You Return is out October 20th through Don Giovanni Records. Brooklyn band Jobber make music that make me want to go back to the days when I believed with all of my heart that everything about wrestling was real. Their debut EP, Hell in a Cell, came out last year, and their first single since continues the wrestling-based themes and aesthetics. As the band's Kate Meisner explains, quote, SummerSlam is the first Jobber song that really resembles the heavy rock I used to hear growing up when WWF was at its peak. She goes on to say that the song started with a Helmet-inspired bass line, and from there the band focused on, quote, making it catchy, but also heavy with some over-the-top excess, like something from a WWF-era SummerSlam commercial or in the background of WCW Beach Brawl 99. Jobber's SummerSlam is out now via Exploding in Sound Records. Cincinnati post-punk band Corker just released a new single titled Edge of Teeth alongside an announcement that their debut album is on the way. In December, they released the track Lice, which marked the band's first music on Feel It Records, and in less than a month from now, they'll be releasing their first full-length titled Falser Truths through the same label. Both of these singles will be featured on the album, and even if you only look at these two tracks, it is easy to see that Corker have a ton to offer. They've shown that they can make brash, noisy, and super punchy punk songs, but also the ability to stretch themselves and create something that's equal parts danceable and restless in sound, as is Edge of Teeth. Corker's debut album, Falser Truths, comes out September 1st via the aforementioned Feel It Records. Asheville, North Carolina singer-songwriter Colin Miller has announced his debut album, Haw Creek, which is due out at the end of next month, and I am so excited for this one. Fans of MJ Lenderman, Wednesday, and or Indigo de Souza may recognize the name if you're someone who pays close attention to the credits of albums, as Miller has engineered and produced for all three of these fellow Asheville artists. The album's lead single, Don't Love You No More, is just so damn catchy, and I have the slight hunch that it won't even end up being the best on the album. And that's by no means to undermine this single. The reason I throw that out there is because there is a ton of sentimental value behind the entirety of Haw Creek, which you can get a glimpse of if you read the Bandcamp description for it. Here is a quick excerpt from the beginning of it. It's about someone obsessed with sound and memory who wrote and recorded an album by himself in the house he grew up in, with hand-me-down instruments from kin down in a Blue Ridge mountain valley outside Asheville, North Carolina. That's where this story takes place, and if he ain't on the road, that's where Colin Miller is at right now. Haw Creek is out September 29th through Ruination Record Company. That does it for this week. We didn't cover everything that dropped, so take a look at your screen or go check out our socials if you want to see the full list of new releases that we put together. Lastly, make sure you go check out our previous video where Dev covered some news stories within music that happened over the past week or so, and thank you so much for watching.